Good morning, good morning. Another good morning to talk to you lovely ones. Again, my heart goes out to you all. I appreciate you watching our videos and some good things coming down the pipes, I think, for the future and health on this planet. We'll see. We're working on some major projects worldwide. We'll see. But this is going to be a bit of a question and answer video here for you. And I'm going to try to keep up with these. I really appreciate your questions. And I think as we go through here and we do a lot of these videos, all your answers will be, or questions will be answered here, even though they might be strung out on some of these videos, because I answer these videos and talk to you from the heart. I don't have any script here for you. I just talk to you with my experience and what I've been through here, so I appreciate that. This one question was on Huntington's disease. Haven't seen a lot of that myself. Huntington's disease is where you get the chorea, you get the spasms and convulsions or the twitching, your equilibrium problem, your cerebellum is involved here. Your cerebellum here is at the top of the spine, base of the skull. That's an area that controls dizziness and vertigo. And then deeper in the brain, you have the central nervous system. You got two nervous systems. You've got the CNS, or central nervous system. That's the hard drive. And then you've got the autonomic nervous system, which handles all the activity and all the channels and all the movements. So you actually have both of those involved. It's a progressive problem like everything else is. And you start to see the deterioration of the brain. You can see the pupils enlarge. You see a lot of different symptoms to this. But what are they? Go back to what you know to be true now. You guys are getting real smart. Think about this. The brain, the nervous systems, the muscles, the bones, the liver, the heart, the kidneys. What are these tissues? That's right. There are a bunch of cells, and two major fluids handle the health of those cells. And how many sides to chemistry? Only two. So you know in our conversations, and those of you that know a little bit about chemistry, or just the activity of life where you drank a Coke or you had acid reflux, we know the acid side of chemistry is the side that in chemistry we call corrosive. It's very damaging to tissue. High alkalis can be too, but keeping it real, we're looking at acids here. And so we talked about the fact that every cell releases acids. Now, can you be born with a weakness in the nervous system? Well, of course. I mean, we've been talking about the genetic weaknesses of man's adrenal glands and kidneys are at an all-time low, like never, ever seen before. So it's compromised the autonomic nervous system so much that more and more people are dying from anesthesia from surgeries. Or after surgeries, they're having all kinds of major problems because the nervous system has been suppressed. In the Michael Jackson case, of course, it went ahead and killed him. And it kills a lot of people because if you can't suppress your nervous system too much, and that's a real problem. Can get you hard to breathe and just start shutting you down that way. So in any type of these conditions, always know that the lymph system as at the core of this is why you see the progression, because if you don't get into raw foods, you don't get into some herbs and start moving this lymph system and pay attention to the kidney and adrenal connection. You can't go out and do lymph drainage and go out and do lymph work if you don't pay attention to the door that the lymph moves through. That's the key to this whole thing, is the kidneys and the adrenal glands in its gigantic relationship to this gigantic lymph system. So real important. Can Huntington's be reversed? Absolutely. Everything can. Now, given there are some people pretty advanced. I've got a poor osteopath, and he's been fighting Lou Gehrig's, and he's been a test for me, boy. He's a tough case. And it's just, some cases just get me. Now, I also, being more godly, I hope, think about karma and realize that each of us, we come into this this lower physical mundane universe and grab a physical, very inert body compared to who you are and all your other bodies. And so we come with karma. We come with baggage, balls and chains, emotionally and mentally. And sometimes these karmatic patterns we have, I can't break them no matter how hard I try or what power they give me to help you. And I don't try too much because I don't want it either. So I really try to do my best at helping you to unwind these type of karmatic things. You will see that as you detoxify, that you'll start emotionally detoxifying. A lot of you will see that and go with that. Let that go. And any neurological case is going to be tied to more emotional karma. And by getting stronger emotionally, it really does help you to become more spiritual because you'll become more self and less codependent. Emotions tend to be tied to desires and codependencies and things like this. So remember that. And then you've got mental karma, and you've got, just a lot of different, I don't know what to call it other than responsibilities maybe that we have that are beyond this lifetime that we have to go through. And some of those things I just can't do anything about them as hard as I try. We have some people that come in here that you think there's no way you could save them with cancer so much through them. And pretty soon they're cancer free. And others have a little tumor, yeah, that's a piece of cake, and suddenly they don't make it. Discouraging, but at the same time, I realize this karmatic need of this soul to go on to another journey. And so I think the other side of what we do here is like a way station. Let me tell you how great all these different heavens are you can journey into, and the beauty and the light and the, I just can't begin to tell you. Anybody that's had out-of-body experiences that went further than just having in the light and the warmth and the bliss, there's a lot, there's the worlds upon worlds of cities and jeweled landscapes and just beautiful things you can experience beyond just the light. And once you do that, this world is a little tough to survive in, you know, because it's not full of a lot of light, except for all you that are watching this video. You're all full of light. I love you all. Some gentleman asked me about the male reproductive area. This is important. I'm glad you asked this question, my friend, because I have two formulas that I made. I made a prostate formula, and I made a male reproductive formula with Damiana and ginseng and things like this in it. Now, I do not recommend a male reproductive formula if your prostate is inflamed. So you want to check your PSAs and your blood work. PSAs should be below 1 for sure, even though they're normal 0 to 4 now. I've had prostate cancer in 40-year-olds with a PSA of 2. So don't take 1 even. Keep those kidneys filtered, because the prostate's just a bunch of cells and 2 floods. Keep that lymph moving. Same thing with the ovaries and the uterus. And get that inflammation out of the prostate before you take hot herbs. Acids are hot, inflammatory, and of course corrosive. You want to get that taken care of first before you add hot herbs. This is why oncologists use Lupron or tamoxifen or Arimidex, things like this that suppress estrogen and testosterone in people. The problem with doing that is you can suppress the adrenal glands, which is all the steroids and neurotransmitters, and I always see a residual kick with the use of these substances. It is true that estrogen and testosterone are acidic. And if you're highly acidic and your lymph isn't moving and you're holding all these acids and then you're pumping a lot of testosterone, it can exacerbate the problem for sure. So get that out first, then take a male reproductive formula to bring power and strength to those cells, and you'll have it. So I would work that way first and get my lymph system. And it's always going to come back to that lymph system. Remember, I told you how simple this is, so maybe we shouldn't tell everybody, or maybe we should. And if you're highly acidic and your lymph isn't moving and you're holding all these acids and then you're pumping a lot of testosterone, it can exacerbate the problem for sure. So get that out first, then take a male reproductive formula to bring power and strength to those cells, and you'll have it. So I would work that way first and get my lymph system. And it's always going to come back to that lymph system. Remember I told you how simple this is, so maybe we shouldn't tell everybody, or maybe we should. Here's another question, and thanks a lot, my friend. I appreciate all your questions. It says, can panic attacks kill you when they're extreme? Well, I think that you'll pass out, but I think that you'll start breathing, you know. I'll say this, if you look around your life and make sure you're not living in a house or living around an area where you're getting a lot of neural toxins, because if you're on raw and you're not pulling out of some of these things, you're either not digging deep enough into the body, your lymph is very backed up and you need to get these herbs to help you, or you're constantly subjecting yourself to neurotoxins. And neurotoxins, I don't know, they're everything from perfumes to bathroom deodorizers to gasoline to pesticides and herbicides. I mean, there's a lot of neurotoxins. You know, new car smells and stuff, formaldehyde, some of them are very neurotoxic. And so you might have a lot of neurotoxins. So it just takes a while to clean those out. And you might have some ups and downs as these neurotoxins come out of you. But check and kind of look around, make sure your life is more pure, because I don't want you to keep hurting yourself if you get around these neurotoxins here. Someone also asked me about fermented foods and what I thought about it. I suppose if it was a margarita or a daiquiri, you know, Jensen was into fermented foods. And I'm not. I don't care. But at the same time, I mean, you're on the downside of life. You're in the decaying side of life. And if you think that's healthy, I think you got to rethink your thinking. There's nothing healthy to me about fermented foods. I mean, we use mushrooms. I really don't even use mushrooms in the immune system, because your immune system is your main lymphatic system. If you're saying, well, a mushroom is known to increase your T cell, which is your thymus gland cells, or your B cells out of your bone marrow, okay, but I've never seen any lab work or research that shows that mushrooms increase B and T cell production or macrophage, although there was a company selling a formula, I won't mention any names, that touted that it doubled your T's and B's and tripled your macrophages. The only catch is it was like $120 and the bottle lasted 2 weeks, and you're going to be on the rest of your life. You know, these kind of people are not God people. Sorry, but you know, that's not how you do things. If you've got to make everybody healthy, and if you want to make your bone marrow healthy, or your thymus gland healthy, or your spleen, or your liver, anything, what are these tissues made of? A bunch of cells. And what else has to be available to those cells for them to be healthy? A kitchen, a blood supply, and to be able to eliminate their waste. These are the two things that are key for infants. These are the two things that is key for every cell, and it's also key for you. You get severe constipation, not you know, doesn't make you feel too good. So a bit of a problem there. So I'm not really into them too much. I mean, you can if you want, but I'd make sure my diet is full of fruits and berries and melons, salad second, and then, you know, some unsundry items. Some gentleman asked me about my 20%. 20% would be steamed vegetables, cooked vegetables, vegetable soups, maybe baked sweet potatoes, maybe organic corn chips, which you can use with guacamole or make your raw salsa. You know, kind of stuff like that. I mean, you can, if you get a little deeper, you can do some whole grain brown rice, still a starch, but, you know, you can do it. These foods aren't detoxifying foods, but that's okay when you're kind of maintaining. Those that have to have some dead animals once in a while, okay. piece of fish or chicken, I guess, on a big salad. But you remember your proper food combinations. You never mix protein and starches together. That's a big no-no. You'll feel that when you do that, by the way. The healthier you get when you combine your foods wrong, nobody will have to tell you a thing. You'll get bloated. You feel like your foods are just sitting there, and a lot of gas. And that's a problem with fermented foods. I had a guy in here yesterday that had, of course, he had cancer through him. And some nutritionist put him on this soup. A bowl of soup every hour, or a cup of soup every hour for 7 days. But this soup was broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, onions. These are cruciferouses. These are all your sulfur veggies. Sulfur is nothing healthy about sulfur, guys. Sulfur is an acid gas. And man, did he have a lot of gas. Made him think he was having a heart attack. And had a lot of problems. And I had to laugh, but these are the kind of things you don't do. They rave cruciferouses over cancer. Why? What about a cruciferous is good for cancer? I haven't seen anything. You've got a lymph system that isn't moving, and you're holding acids in these tissues, and if you don't remedy that problem, I don't care what you take. Doesn't matter to me. You're not going to be successful. You might hold things off, but you're not going to be too successful there. I wanted to get into this hair thing. I've been asked several times about the balding, even in women. I suppose if you're born without any hair, you could look to your pituitary gland, look at the size of your body, whether you're short or tall, your growth patterns. You could probably look at the brain and some of that. But in reality, the thing that removes hair the most is your lymph system. And really, that's what you really want to look after, is cleaning that lymph system. I use two things for balding. And by the way, there's a gentleman that wanted to talk to someone. Call Kathy if you're wondering about balding. We had a gentleman with cancer all through him. He was bald, and now he's got hair all over the place. And it just had been balding for years. And then that wasn't a chemo removal. Interesting how chemo removes hair, isn't it? Well, chemo's acid, and acids do break down cells. Remember the guy told you, I think yesterday on a video, that they wanted to remove all his teeth before chemo did. I mean, come on. I mean, this is going down the wrong road to Wellville, because there is no Wellville at the end of that road. There's death, decay, pain, suffering. There's all kinds of nasty stuff. For what reason? You're talking about cells. And you want to get cells healthy. You don't get cells healthy, that's where virals come in. That's where your autoimmune problems come in. If there ever was such a word, simply means that your body is getting rid of the weak. And we've talked about that in previous videos here. But always work on your lymph system to put on hair. I do use upper circulation. This is a formula I have that creates new vascular pathways, and it'll really push blood all up in the head area. At the same time, remember that it's a lymph system that breaks those pathways down. So going after lymph and increasing blood flow to the head, you'll grow hair. I've never seen anyone not be able to do that. Some quicker than others, of course, but still, I've never seen anyone not be able to do that. Make sure your glands are healthy. When you're looking at the endocrine glands and you're wondering about the pituitary, the iridology is one of the best ways to determine that problem. However, if you have thyroid and parathyroid weakness, where you're having the colder body, the slower heart rate, and you're not utilizing calcium properly, you see the veins and the hemorrhoids and the cramping and maybe the bruising easy, that's your parathyroid, and you see ovarian problems or male problems. You start to see too many endocrine gland problems, you can really suspect the pituitary, and this would be especially true if you didn't have any tonsils. Because you're then really compromising lymph drainage, and then you're going to have some problems there. And that ties me into another question here about the thyroid gland, and this person's on Armour. Dr. Jensen and his wife thought Armour would be good to increase thyroid function. He did not realize that if you take a hormone, a steroid, a neurotransmitter, or a digestive enzyme, whatever your endocrine, exocrine glands make, if you take those substances, I'm telling you, your glands quit making them. We know that in every health modality there is, from veterinarians to medical doctors, but we still use it in those fields because they don't understand the anti-inflammatory properties of fruits, berries, and melons, and greens. Dr. Jensen and his wife thought Armour would be good to increase thyroid function. He did not realize that if you take a hormone, a steroid, a neurotransmitter, or a digestive enzyme, whatever your endocrine, exocrine glands make, if you take those substances, I'm telling you, your glands quit making them. We know that in every health modality there is, from veterinarians to medical doctors, but we still use it in those fields because they don't understand the anti-inflammatory properties of fruits, berries, and melons, and greens. So, and the need to detoxify a system that's causing all the inflammatory responses. So you would want to get a glandular, and I can't tell you which is better over another. We have 3 or 4 companies we use because there are different levels, and I don't want to slander them, but there's different levels, different power with them. Standard Process has been your most commonly used one. I find it a middle grade glandular. Enzyme Process is a lot harder when you're using those with people. But there's several out there on the market. You can muscle test yourself with those. Maybe I'll do a video on muscle testing and show you how to muscle test all these things on yourself to make sure your body wants them. A little bit of physics here. But I would use a glandular if it was me, because a glandular is the whole tissue, and it'll excite the whole tissue, like I was talking about earlier, stem cell type of stuff. It'll excite that whole tissue, therefore your tissue will produce not only T4, but it'll also produce calcitonin, which is the other thing your thyroid produces. Calcitonin and parathormone are the 2 hormones that deal with calcium pulling and putting back. Real important. Hypothyroidism also can be linked to pituitary hypocondition. So in all, unless you have someone that's spent a number of years looking at those, and you can always fill out a questionnaire, send it in, and see the staff and how they deal with that. But outside of that, you want to make the body healthy. And the end result of whatever we do to be well is to understand that we're after making the cells healthy. And I have just 2 philosophies in health: clean all the acid wastes and overgrowth of parasites in the body out of it, and strengthen the cells that comprise your body. I mean, this is your body, is your cells, and those cells need to be fed and cleaned properly. Okay, see if going on. This guy has a cataract. Cataracts are cholesterol plaquing, and it's never a good sign to see cataracts for what it means in the brain, because of cholesterol being used as the body's main antacid. Your adrenal steroids are made of LDL, and your adrenal steroids are key in the body's using them initially as antacids. Medical doctors use cortisol as an antacid all the time. So does your body. The problem with taking that external to the adrenal glands is losing the adrenal gland production of cortisol, which most people can't afford. That same steroid controls sugar metabolism. So when you have low cortisol levels, I don't care what blood work shows or anything else, when you run low cortisol levels, you run low blood sugar or hyperglycemia, which is type 2. And correct the adrenal glands, and either one of the hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar, or hyper, which is type 2, both of those will go away nice as you please. But that's an adrenal gland issue. And so cortisol is real important. When the body doesn't have enough progesterone and cortisols and your corticosteroids, the body will turn to cholesterol as a direct substance to use as an antacid. And this is when you start to see the buildup of it up interstitially. And that's in the wall of the vascular system, in the eyes, in the brain. It's all over. So if cholesterol is an antacid, it's a lipid, meaning a fat, how would you get rid of that? Yes, if it's an antacid, then it's in the lymph system, and what system would you have to focus on? See how we keep coming back to that lymph system again? I tell you, you can almost keep coming back to it all the time. I would use upper circulation and move blood around in my head and in your eyes. I would also move that lymph system. You're on something N-acetyl carnosone or zine. I don't use those. Once in a while, I use acetyl L-carnitine to pull oxygen maybe up in the brain when I have some very advanced cases, but I've never seen any great improvements at all from it. So, you know, sometimes I'll flip and use something like that when I get desperate, but to tell you the truth, I just never see any benefits from that. It's really a lymphatic problem. And taking a form of an amino or anything like that, I tell you, if you're going to use an eye wash, make sure it's like ours where you have lymph formulas and blood formulas where you're increasing blood flow in the eye and you're increasing lymph drainage. A good eye wash will give you a lot of mucus in the eyes. It'll start cleaning that eye. And internally, you've got to drain your lymph system down through here, down through the axillary lymphs, and then right out those kidneys. So again, you're going back to a kidney and adrenal gland problem. You're going back to a lymph stagnation problem. You particularly see this and glaucoma, which is lymph pressure. You know, this is the lymph system. And this is an acid pressure, not good. Then you can get MACD, which is macular degeneration, wrinkling of the... I mean, there's all kinds of names associated to the decay and breakdown of tissue when acids are stagnant in those tissues. You know, it's just unlimited. They're not causative factors from other things. It's kind of like this Huntington they blame on genes and things like that. You know, best you don't go there because it's not important. Cells are damaged and mutated and with each generation. Unless someone's cleaning their lymph system and rebuilding their cells, you're going to alter the genetic makeup of cells. If you get too wacko with the gene theories, then it's like, oh, I carry this gene like you're carrying a little baby around. Oh, give me a break. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just simpler than that. Oh, someone asked me about gallbladder polyps and gallstones. I tell you, you want to go on a raw food diet, which you probably are. I do a fruit fast, maybe a grape fast for a few days. Use a liver gallbladder formula. Ours will do well. I have a whole bunch of picture of gallstones here. But we have a liver gallbladder flush. You can call into the office here and get it, but it's 8 ounces of pure cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, organic olive oil, 8 ounces, and then we mix it with like 6 to 8 ounces. And I like the pink grapefruit juice. The lemons tend to be more nauseating. Oil is very nauseating, and I'd have a little apple juice. I used to take a little apple and just kind of just suck on it or chew it a little bit. Apples is a good detoxifier anyway, and we'll have the instructions for you. You can call in and do a liver gallbladder flush. I'd first get myself raw, clean the bowels. I like to put a bowel formula on here with it because you don't want to be constipated doing a liver gallbladder flush. Now, gallstones are real soft. They're generally emerald green and yellow. The yellow's cholesterol. And clean that out. But if you're having polyps, just like bowel polyps, polyps comes from the inside of the wall. It pushes through. It's like a, you know, it's stagnant lymph. And so it's your lymph system again. And of course, when fluids are acidic, it creates an anionic environment, which is an environment of coagulation and dehydration, creating a drying up or a coagulating issue where things are sticking together, becoming stones or rocks or gallstones, things like this. It makes that lymph system thick, and you've gotten some real thick mucus out of the head before. Sometimes it takes months and months to start making that anionic environment a cationic environment, one where you're seeing more of a rehydration and a thinning of that fluid so the body can expectorate it better. So don't get frustrated. Some people have real bad, especially if you've been on dairy products all your lives. You could have a lot of work ahead of yourself, but don't get frustrated. You'll get it. Let me see here. Let's see what she says here. and clean that out. But if you're having polyps, just like bowel polyps, polyps comes from the inside of the wall. It pushes through. It's like a, it's stagnant lymph. And so it's your lymph system again. And of course, when fluids are acidic, it creates an anionic environment, which is an environment of coagulation and dehydration, creating a drying up or a coagulating issue where things are sticking together, becoming stones or rocks or gallstones, things like this. It makes that lymph system thick, and you've gotten some real thick mucus out of the head before. Sometimes it takes months and months to start making that anionic environment a cationic environment, one where you're seeing more of a rehydration and a thinning of that fluid so the body can expectorate it better. So don't get frustrated. Some people have real bad, especially if you've been on dairy products all your lives, you could have a lot of work ahead of yourself, but don't get frustrated. You'll get it. Let me see here. Let's see what she says here. Oh, this lady. Oh, this is about the hair. Yeah, honey, you've been to a lot of docs giving you hope and stuff, but not right hope, not true hope. You're learning regeneration, and that's the only hope in any situation, I feel, is the regeneration of tissue. Whether it's scalp, hair, I don't care. You've got to think about what breaks down tissue and what rebuilds tissue in chemistry. That's why you're introduced to the fruits and vegetables, why there's such a radical change now to the food. This is really just asking you to eat the food your body's designed to eat. How radical does that sound to some people? I find that amazing. What we're eating in this omnivorish diet is radical to who we are as a species in terms of our types of foods desired. So call in to Kathy. She'll give you a guy's name. His story's pretty wild. But we have tons of these people. Understand regeneration is an incredible experience, and you can't help but not do it if you're following this path. Let's see, elevate, liver enzymes, someone was talking about that along with the Armour thyroid there. Yeah, I mean, your liver's starting to break down or something's damaging that liver outside of the lymph system, and that would be generally a chemical ingestion, either your Lipitor, all your statin type things. A lot of things damages the liver. So I'd get on a liver herbal formula, definitely get into the fruits and the berries and move that lymph system. But also I will tell you, when you have liver and pancreatic problems, the colon is always involved. So clean up that gut too. That's why we go over that Fab4, where we see the kidney formula, we see the adrenal gland formula, we see the GI tract formula, and we see a lymphatic formula. That bowel is so important to clean up, not just on the wall, but in the wall. And that's a trip, because that's where the lymph system is, and again, that's where stagnation is. Remember, I told you my word I like to coin, interstitial, meaning around the cells, lymphatic, which is the lymph system, and constipation, meaning I'm not moving anywhere fast. That's what most of us suffer with, is interstitial lymphatic constipation. And that is an anionic environment through years of not filtering properly, and the adrenal glands creates that filtering process. So I think I've answered that. I don't know, can you see this? This is I don't know if you can see this. I'm not watching myself here, but this is an all raw food chart from the American Cancer Society in 1986. This is what they recommended for those with cancer. Now you could have rattlesnake, ostrich, kangaroo, anything you want like that. And you see how many, that had to be a money thing. Of course, fruits and vegetables. What else would you eat? Dead animals? Would you eat like billy goats? You know what? Either there's a lot of unawareness, or there's just people willing to sell out themselves for. We sell glandulars. You can only get glandulars mostly through physicians or healthcare practitioners. But you can get online with them. We have them here, and just talk to the girls in the pharmacy there. Let me see. Oh, here's one I marked to answer. Let's see what it says. Dr. Morris, someone went through chemo, radiation, multiple surgeries. This guy, and this is, I've read this before, my friend. You went through it at 19 years old. Wow. I mean, I applaud you. And you're now 35, which is a good, good period of time where it's not all through you. Man, don't take any to get your body cleaned out. That radiation can hang around for 20, 30 years. I had a gentleman from the first atomic bomb explosion, and that was about 10 years ago. And he was, I don't know, he was 30, 40 years holding this, red like a Santa Claus. And when I started detoxifying his skin and all that radiation came out of him. Radiation is kind of like acids and everything else. When you're acidic, things become antibiotic and they just stay around. Sulfa drugs are common to stay around in the body from antibiotic use, sulfa drugs. And this really creates fungal. Oh, that reminds me. Sorry how this goes with me. I apologize, but I'm kind of wacko like that. Someone asked me about candida. Well, there's important to understand the role of the fungal family. Those people that like fermented foods, you like fungus, or because that's a family that breaks down starches, is the fungal family. And in its proteins, you have putrefaction, more bacterium. But when you're looking at the fungal family, they are the family involved in fermentation processes, and it's a natural process of sugars. You look at, and even some things like milk and stuff like that, milk sugars and stuff. So someone used to say, well, don't eat fruit because it makes the body full of candida. Well, it stirs up candida because of all the active principles of astringents, but fructose is a simple sugar like glucose. More active because it doesn't require insulin, still a simple sugar. You can put a handful of grapes on your kitchen counter, and you can put a piece of bread and a piece of cheese, and you can watch which one of those three grow mold on them first. And I guarantee you it won't be the grapes. The grapes only start growing mold on them when they start to ferment. So, we talked about this in past videos, that when you have an adrenal gland weakness and you have low cortisol levels, you don't metabolize your sugars properly. Well, somebody thought starch was good for us. Grains are the savior of the world. In what way? No way. We use them in farming for fattening up hogs and cattle for market. I told you before, I was a farm boy. We raised horses, and we fed our horses alfalfa because my sister and I were always racing them. And I didn't want a fat horse that would tax the horse even, because I've always loved my animals. And feeding and making a horse fat is not my idea. It's like making you fat. When you feel fat, I know when I gain some extra weight, I don't feel good. And it's always from either grains or somehow you're eating where you're in a situation and you don't eat right. Grains are hard to digest. They're nothing but starch. And if you have weak adrenal glands, not only are you going to get fat or obese from that, you're giving too much sugar. Your body can't break that sugar down. Well, that sugar will be converted to glycogen or some fat, and you'll have fungal activity on that. And that really breeds a lot of fungus in the body. And remember, the fungus family, candida, all these type of fungals, moles, warts, they leave uric acid in the body. And that's not good. Uric acid is that little pinprick acid, like gouty acid that nobody likes. And that's from excessive candida. One of the biggest aphrodisiacs to the fungal or candida community is sulfa drugs. This use of sulfa drugs and antibiotics is so barbaric and antiquated, it's unbelievable. Use herbs. I mean, the herbs are so unique. It keeps the good guys, it breaks down the overgrowth, but it doesn't destroy the bacteria and the lymph nodes. Vital stuff to have in the body, and it doesn't create candida. Look at all these people with sulfur. If you want to know if you have sulfur, go to get a mirror that's one of those, 14X or whatever, and get you a flashlight and look in your eye. If you see any orange, something you're walking up to you might not want to walk up to. Not good to use chemistry like that. It's better to use herbs designed for that. So my Parasite M is an antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial to a certain extent. Good for dentistry work and stuff like that. But always remember the culturing medium. One is the lymph system, and two, your adrenal glands. If you're not metabolizing sugar, stay away from the starch. Not good for humans anyway, but you know, we like them. But most of them are acidic except millet and quinoa, and still they're starch. You know, and when you're detoxifying, which is my expertise here, I don't get you. It'll slow it down, and it's not what the doctor ordered, so to speak. So if you do them in moderation. Harvey Kellogg was looking for some healthy. It's like Dr. Graham and the Graham cracker fame. These were guys looking for something healthy, but, you know, brainwashed to that. Even Dr. Jensen, if you go back in his old Health Valley Ranch, you'll see plates of raw milk cheeses and whole grain breads. I even had health food stores in the early 70s, and I had a grain meal. I sold raw milk cheeses and goat's milk ice cream, and that was during the process of being raw. And then after a while, I started tasting things, you know, and pretty soon it takes you off of that, and then you didn't feel good. I said, wait a minute, this stuff's supposed to be healthy. I don't feel like I did robust on fruit. So really, these are cheat things, not staple things. So get the candida out of it. Use the Parasite M if you're heavily involved. Just keep using it, but move that lymph system. That's the key to having a more lasting experience. But candida can really, I had an architect female, so much candida. A medical doctor diagnosed her when she was 12. I met her with candida, fungal problems. He said, I just don't know what to do for him. That was a good medical doctor, because that was way before even my school thought about teaching candida. In the earlier years, you weren't taught about fungal problems and things like this. So it's just things that have come up as times come on here, and so these things come into play here. He had surgeries, multiple surgeries. Oh man, I feel for you, man. He's 35 years old. What would you recommend I take to clean up the lymph? Well, now your whole focus should be about health of your body. You've done well. Your whole focus should be health of the body. Review these videos on the lymph system. I recommend you guys out there that want to be serious that you do 2 lymphatic formulas. One of them, make it lymphatic 1 capsules. Then play with lymphatic 4, strong astringents. Lymphatic 3, very strong. Some herbs pharmaceutical companies and bitter melon, where they were trying to get a chemo out of them, but use those herbs together, powerful. Lymph node 2 is basically black salve, a little changed, but like that internally. Very, very good stuff. I wouldn't recommend lymph node 2 capsules, and I put lymph node 2 liquid into capsules. People started getting projectile vomiting. Very powerful stuff. You can only take 1 capsule twice a day, probably at most. Real strong at pulling and cleaning. So I don't recommend that one, but I like 1 liquid and 1 capsule, which is lymphatic 1 capsules. And the reason the capsule, it'll start drawing through that bowel wall into those interstitial areas, or those spaces around the cells and what makes up your gut wall. And that's where most of the IBS and Crohn's and cancers come from, and polyps is from in the wall. They don't just grow on the wall for no reason. Definitely, I use 2 kidney formulas nowadays. Kidney number 1, kidney number 2. Very important. We have very bad kidneys, guys, so work on those. Do an adrenal glandular, or if your blood pressure is low, get the adrenal tincture with the herbs, or do the endocrine gland formula. It'll pick up the thyroid and pituitary with it. Always work on those adrenal glands. I recommend a stomach and bowel formula. Really get one. A stomach and bowel 1, if you're moving your bowels every day, use stomach number 1. If you miss a day or 2, use number 2. The longer you miss, go up. Now, none of them are laxative. I don't make a laxative. I don't believe in laxative. I don't believe in purging, because then you have the opposite effect of innervation, meaning, it's like running real hard, and then you have to sit down and rest a minute. That's what stimulants do to you. You seesaw like this. And it's like, no, that's not how you build health of cells. Parasite maybe M for a couple of months, just to clean any of the big boys or anything out of you. If you think you have worms, do Parasite G. Outside of that, then you can play with these formulas, or any formulas. I love herbal formulas. I think it should be Get rid of pharmaceuticals, use homeopathics, and definitely use botanicals. Look at Rexall Drugs. They sell pharmaceuticals out the front door and homeopathics and herbals out of the back door. Has for years. So, you know, I mean, you hear all that. I think we need to drop the, you know, the things that harm us and really bring up the things and make it a challenge between all of us to come up with the best formulas. If my formulas don't shake and I don't get cold chills and they don't smoke when I open the lid, not good. I like a good herbal formula. Nothing toxic about them, and they will really accelerate. Just like my new brain and nerve, I can't believe some of the results we're seeing already from it. Really power it, turning on the brain and getting rid of pain and stuff in the brain. So I love stuff, and that's what it should be. Who makes the best herbal formulas? Come on, pharmaceutical companies, challenge, get rid of killing people with these crappy formulas, and let's get into a contest of who can make the best herbal formulas. This thing of purity and standardization, forget that. Just see who makes put that on the farmers. You farmers, you make the grow the best you can. We've about wildcrafted everything to death in this country. So the farmers, we need herbal farmers. And we'll see. So I think that's a good protocol. And you can play with other herbs. If you need something for the liver, take it for the liver. Clean the liver out for a month or two. Clean your spleen out for a month or something. If you want to get up in the head, use upper circ. But remember, when you're working on your lymph system, that's head to toe. If you want to use the blood, you can use blood formula to clean up the blood, upper circular or lower circulation. That also helps with male reproductive problems, is that lower circulation formula. Pushes blood in those areas. So all these things you can do and have fun with this. And I do invite you to have fun with them. And you all are so good, and I appreciate the questions. If I missed your question, I do apologize, so forgive me. But write it again, and I'll look at them and come back again next week with you. So thank you. You have fun this weekend, and take care of yourselves, okay? You're blessed ones. Thank you. Bye-bye.